This story happened almost 20 years ago. My wife and I lived pretty well. We had been living together for more than 10 years at that time. My wife looked pretty impressive at the time. Many men stared at her, but she laughingly rejected all these attempts. My wife worked in a large store in the city center, which employed more than 40 women and 5 men. Among them was an electrician who, in addition to his main job, sold erotic films. My wife and I bought several films at a low price, and the man gave a couple of cassettes to my wife on March 8th. My wife told me that the electrician was a terrible womanizer and already more than 10 employees were considered his mistresses. Naturally, he met each of them personally, but they were well aware of each other's existence. The women were openly talking about how good he was in bed, and now it was my wife's friend's turn. This young woman begged my wife to arrange a meeting at our apartment, since she was married and he was married. My wife and I went for a walk, as it were, and they were left alone. By the time we arrived, they had already completed their tasks and looked more than satisfied. I naively thought that this couple and I would sometimes meet to communicate, and did not notice that the spouse was seriously attracted to this guy. When I went on a business trip, he came to his wife without a girlfriend. My wife didn't tell me about it at all, but I felt that her sexual behavior had changed a lot. Again, I didn't think much of it. I thought watching erotica was the reason for this. My friend Sarah lived on the ground floor, who made it clear to me that our marriage was in danger. I told my wife that I was going on a business trip, and I went to visit a friend who lived alone in a big house. I wanted to stay with him for a couple of days, but a premonition made me get up in the middle of the night and go home. I walked about 2 kilometers, went into the entrance. Everything was quiet. She opened the front door noiselessly, and suddenly saw my wife in her silk bathrobe coming out of the bathroom. And it's at 5 a.m. I felt ashamed of my suspicions about my wife and I kissed her passionately. We had some crazy sex that morning and I was allowed to come inside, even though my wife was usually against it. The last of my doubts vanished like a bad dream. I went to see my friend in the afternoon. Her husband was at work. Sarah and I felt great sympathy for each other, but we never crossed the line. After drinking a glass of homemade wine, Sarah said that one man was with his wife just before I arrived, and how we missed each other is just a miracle. My wife didn't lock herself in, confessed everything, and I forgave her. About 9 months later, we had a wonderful daughter whom I definitely recognize as my own.